The Penn State Nittany Lions, despite tremendous success over the past couple of seasons, have yet to really get over that Ohio State and Michigan hump. And now, with some more teams joining the Big Ten Conference, there may end up being more hoops for Penn State to jump through. However, with two new head coordinators and year number 2 under Drew Allar, with an expanded playoff field, everything is in front of James Franklin's group. So, can Penn State be one of the premier teams in college football in 2024? You're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to prediction season, and welcome to video number 9 out of 134. Yes, I said 134. I'm predicting each and every one of the 134 teams in the FBS ranks of college football this year, which means, guys, I'm doing your favorite team. So hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when that video gets uploaded. And thank you for watching this video. Help support my channel in more ways than you can even imagine. And if you want to continue to support my channel, like, comment, share, and do anything else you can to help interact with the channel, because whatever you do to interact with the channel helps to support it. And I really appreciate all the support that I can get. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let us talk about Penn State football in 2024. How do we do that? Well, we're going to go into a deep dive into the team's offense, into the team's defense, and then we will go through, preview, and predict every single game on Penn State football's 2024 schedule. So without further ado, actually, I lied. Couple footnotes before we dive on into the offense here. Both the offensive and defensive stats on their respective screens, of course, are going to be in this bar right up here, as well as for your viewing pleasure, I've put the team's coaching staff right below the logo for you to look at. I mentioned at the top in my intro, there are two new head coordinators at Penn State under head coach James Franklin. Andy Kotelnicki is the offensive side. He comes over from Kansas to help maybe give some life into Drew Allar's downfield passing game. No notable change into this quarterback room, but it is still Drew Allar's show. The Penn State star quarterback, I think, still has some room to grow. 2,631 yards, 25 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions last year with around 60% completion percentage. Okay, you might be looking for him to get a little bit more accurate. The touchdown-interception ratio is fantastic. Maybe you want to generate a little bit more offense in terms of the touchdown numbers there, but the short game does work for Drew Allar. The slant routes, the drags, the curls, everything short works. It's the downfield passing game where he struggles, and until he can develop that, he hasn't really shown me much personally out of what I've seen in the spring, but it matters what happens in September, in October, in November. That really counts. So for Drew Allar to take that next step, and for this Penn State offense, I think, to take that next step, not to say that they haven't already been good, because they've been a pretty good offense. In order for them to take that next step, Drew Allar's got to develop that downfield pass game, which I think will get better in 2024. At least that should be, if you're a Nittany Lion fan, your expectation that that downfield pass game gets at least a little bit better. In the running back room, while you could argue they have one of the best running back rooms in the entire country, with Trey Potts gone to the NFL, your two main guys still come back. A combined 1,600 yards and 14 touchdowns for Nick Singleton and Katron Allen last season. They'll be the 1-2 punch in the running back room again this year. Allen got 172 carries and Singleton got 171 carries last year. Probably pretty similar numbers this year, as those two are going to end up splitting carries. The wide receiver room, though, this is a room that's going to look drastically different. Keandre Lambert-Smith up and suddenly entered the transfer portal, so there goes Drew Allar's top target, 673 yards on 53 catches with 4 touchdowns last season. Dante Cephas is another guy that's going to be leaving, as well as Malik McClain. Lambert-Smith is off to Auburn, Cephas is off to Kansas State, and I believe McClain is off to Arizona State, although Penn State fans, you can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. So the wide receiver room is going to look vaguely different. There are a lot of good returning pieces, including Harrison Wallace, who is the leading returner among wide receivers from last season. 228 yards and 1 touchdown last year. You might figure he's now that number 1 guy, with the likes of Cephas and Lambert-Smith gone through the transfer portal. The other guys like Liam Clifford, Omari Evans, and Caden Saunders are going to be in this room. And if Harrison Wallace is not going to be that number 1 guy, enter Julian Fleming. We know what Ohio State wide receiver transfers have done in the past. I'm looking at you, Jamison Williams, when he went off to Alabama. Fleming leaves a very talented room in Columbus to come back home to his home state of Pennsylvania and maybe be that lead target for Drew Allar here with the Penn State Nittany Lions. Tight end room is always a good unit for Penn State. However, one of your better ones in Theo Johnson is gone. 341 yards, 7 touchdowns last year. He's going to be playing on Sundays, and for good reason. Really good player. However, his running mate in Tyler Warren does come back. 34 catches, 422 yards, and 7 touchdowns last year. Had the same amount of catches and touchdowns as Johnson, just with more yardage production. He's going to be a really, really good tight end in 2024, as well as Khalil Dinkins coming back, and Luke Reynolds, a freshman, should play some solid minutes. With Olu Fashanu and Caden Wallace gone off the offensive line, among some others, your offensive line is going to comprise of, I believe, 5 of these 7 players. Drew Shelton, JB Nelson, Oliva Vega, apologies if I mispronounced that last name, Sal Wormley, and Nick Dawkins are all going to be coming back, as well as a freshman and Cooper Cousins coming in, and Nolan Rucci from Wisconsin coming in through the transfer portal, should be a starter on the offensive line. I'm not going to talk much more about it because we know this team has a really good rush game with Singleton and Allen. I think the wide receiver room is going to be overlooked. I think Fleming and Wallace make a really good 1-2, and they have some solid pieces back there. Tyler Warren is going to be a reliable weapon out of the tight end room, but Drew Allar, I'll say it for the last time, has to develop. Okay, probably not for the last time. I'll be honest, but Drew Allar has to develop that downfield pass game for this Penn State offense to hopefully be considered among the elite offensive units in the country. They're already great. In order to get to elite, Allar's got to get that downfield ball working. Let's talk about the Penn State defense, which has been elite for the past several seasons. Now, it sees some changes, as well as Manny Diaz is off to be a head coach at Duke. So Tom Allen, the former Indiana coach, is that defensive coordinator. His unit looks like this. Even though Chop Robinson is going to be gone to the NFL, he only had 15 tackles last year, but 4 sacks. He was an absolute force. As well as Jordan Vandenberg. That's going to be entering the transfer portal. I believe has already found a home with a new school as well. The defensive line is still loaded. Now, Abdul Carter is going to move from linebacker to more of an edge rusher type player. He was more of a true linebacker. Now his true position as edge rusher is going to come out. So Abdul Carter will be slotting down mainly onto the defensive line, and he is a great, great player. 49 tackles, 4.5 sacks last season. He is world-class, really good, along with 5 pass defended and a pick last season. The rest of the defensive line, I should say, looks like this. Devon Ellies, Danny Dennis Sutton, Zariah Fisher, Zane Durant, Keziah Izzard, and many more make for a very talented front 4 with the Penn State Nittany Lions. Your linebacker room does take a couple of huge hits, though. Curtis Jacobs is going to be gone. 50 tackles, 2.5 sacks last year, was the 3rd leading tackler on this team, as well as Adisa Isaac. He was also an edge rush type player, lined up primarily as a linebacker, but the sack leader for Penn State's defense last year is gone. Isaac had 37 tackles, making him a top 10 tackler with 7.5 sacks last season. However, I still believe this is going to be a very, very talented linebacker room, as Kobe King, with 59 tackles, a sack and a half last year, comes back, 2nd leading tackler on the defense last season. Dominic DeLuca, Tony Rojas, Tyler Eldson, and Keon Wiley, all names that come back to this linebacker room. So pair them with that defensive line. That's a front 7 with Penn State that's going to be very, very dangerous. The defensive back room looks like this. A lot of corners are going to be gone to now playing on Sundays. Daquan Hardy was a very good player, 7 pass defended, 2 picks with 22 tackles last season. Kalen King, 29 tackles, 2 pass defended for him. And Johnny Dixon, 26 tackles, 3 pass defended with 4.5 sacks out of the cornerback position last year, are all going to be gone, as well as King Mack, a safety who has entered the transfer portal, which definitely is a pretty notable loss there in the safety position. But your defensive back rooms are still loaded. Cam Miller is going to be coming back, hopefully as that lead corner, at least you would think. 24 tackles, 3 sacks for him last season. Zion Tracy, Elliott Washington II, and Audavian Collins, all members coming back to this cornerback room, but there are some transfers that are coming in to this room as well. And a couple really, really talented ones here at that. AJ Harris, guess where he's coming from? Yeah, he's coming all the way over from Georgia. He's going to be a great player here for Penn State. And Jalen Kimber comes over from another SEC school and one of Georgia's biggest rivals in the Florida Gators. You take a look at the safety position, Kevin Winston, Jalen Reed, and Zakee Wheatley all are coming back here. As a matter of fact, Winston was the leading tackler of this team last year, 60 tackles with 5 passes defended, and a freshman in Vabo Toure is going to be here in this room as well. And hey, kickers are people too. Let's show them some love. Alex Falcons has graduated, so Riley Thompson is coming back, as well as Sander Sahadak. I believe I pronounced that last name right. If not, you can correct me in the comment section down below. But he's going to be the leading kickoff specialist and field goal kicker for Penn State this season. Again, this defense is still going to be one of the country's best units, especially with a defensive front seven that has that much talent. Abdul Carter is a world-class player. I think Kobe King gets overlooked by a lot of guys, even though he's already widely considered as one of the best linebackers in the country. He should be. He's a really, really good player. And some of the transfers they have coming in, especially in this cornerback room, as well as some leaders in that safety position coming back, yeah, this Penn State team, with Tom Allen as their DC, has all the things necessary for a recipe for success on the defensive end in 2024. They, again, will be really, really good. Let's talk about the Penn State schedule here. Hey, any game at home is going to be underlined, while any game on the road is in italics or that slanted text. Any game you see in green is a game that I think Penn State's going to win pretty handedly. Any game in yellow is, watch out for that one. That team could give Penn State a scare, but I still think the Nittany Lions come away with the win. And of course, red is any loss. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here's Penn State football's schedule in 2024. And we're going to start off as well where you should start off. Week 1 on the road against the West Virginia Mountaineers. Now, trap game right out of the gate. This is going to be a really tricky one for Penn State, especially if that downfield ball for Drew Allar isn't working as well as Penn State fans would like it to early on. Now, I think that there's going to be some things go on here in week 1 for Penn State, like Drew Allar making connections with Julian Fleming and finding that connection with Harrison Wallace and Warren. I think are going to come naturally, but maybe trying to get Fleming involved here might come a little slower than some Penn State fans would have liked. The offensive line is missing a couple of key pieces, but I think it's the defense that will rise here for Penn State. Look, Neil Brown has a very talented team at West Virginia. They could be a big sleeper in college football this year. Garrett Green is a really, really good quarterback that I think is going to take a step up in 2024, but I don't see the Mountaineers having the defense necessary to slow down Penn State's rushing game, and I also don't think that Garrett Green and what West Virginia has offensively will be able to overpower this Penn State defense as much as they may need to. So even though West Virginia keeps this one really close, gives Penn State a huge scare, the Nittany Lions, I think, come away with the road win in week 1. A couple of MAC schools on the slate next. You're going to beat Bowling Green in week 2 before your first bye week of the year, and then you will roll over the Kent State Golden Flashes as well. Heading into Big Ten play, got a couple of the new Big Ten schools. In fact, actually 3 out of the 4 teams from the West Coast that joined the Big Ten, Penn State has on their schedule, but it doesn't start out that way. It starts out with a game at home against the Illinois Fighting Illini. I think this is going to be a really, really good game. I could see the Illini giving Penn State fits. They've done it in the past. Take a look at that 9 overtime game that we saw just a couple of seasons ago. But with this one being at home here, I think Brett Bielema's group is going to take a step in the right direction this year, but I don't think they're talented enough to beat the Penn State Nittany Lions. I know there are a couple people that are really high on Brett Bielema's team, but I like James Franklin's group. Give me the Nittany Lions to beat Illinois. UCLA is a weird team to try to figure out this year. The head coaching situation is really, really messy. Dante Moore left. You have a lot of guys leaving to the NFL, a lot more guys that are going to be leaving through the transfer portal, and UCLA right now is a little bit of a jumbled mess, and especially joining a new physical conference like the Big Ten. The Pac-12 has been a very good conference over the past couple of seasons, but UCLA, I think, is going to have a lot of struggles in the Big Ten conference this year. I don't think they give Penn State much of a fight at all as the Nittany Lions roll over UCLA before, okay, this is the big 4-game stretch here, and I think this is where Penn State is going to start to run into some trouble. I do think they beat USC in week 7. Lincoln Riley has said they're going to be focusing on the defensive side of the ball. Okay, that's kind of have to, believe it when I see it kind of thing, especially knowing Lincoln Riley's track record with defenses. But USC is still going to have a really, really good offense, and they're going to give this Penn State defense a very, very tough challenge. However, I think Penn State's going to be up to the task, and those first 2 games in Big Ten play, I think Drew Allar is really going to start finding some things. The offensive line is going to mesh together really, really well. The run game is going to be at full force, and I think Penn State's going to have what it takes to go on the road in the Coliseum and beat USC. And a perfect time for a bye week because it comes in the middle of a back-to-back road game stretch. However, I do think they lose one of these two road games. Obviously, I have them beating USC, so I do have the Penn State Nittany Lions dropping this game to the Wisconsin Badgers. Reason being, I think Luke Fickell is going to take a jump with the Wisconsin Badgers in year 2. Year 1 definitely did not go as planned, especially with some of the hype that people were giving Wisconsin, myself included, last year. However, Wisconsin with Tyler Van Dyke coming over still has a very talented backfield. I think that wide receiver room is pretty good, and we know the defensive talent and we know the defensive standard that Wisconsin plays at. And that has not changed under Luke Fickell one bit. I think Wisconsin's going to give Penn State a really good fight. And in the end, Wisconsin, I think, is going to come away with a very, very close win. So that might be what you might consider an upset here. And at home, then the next week, I have them losing to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Definitely a game that Penn State can win. Again, they just can't seem to get over that Ohio State hump, with Ohio State bringing some experience in at quarterback. They have, much like Penn State, a really good running back duo. The wide receiver room is loaded yet again. And much like Penn State as well, one of the best defenses in the entire country. I give Ohio State the edge defensively, especially with the addition of Caleb Downs, and offensively as well. I think their running back duo outduels Penn State's running back duo as what definitely could end up being the whiteout game. I think Ohio State goes on the road and beats Penn State, handing them their second straight loss, but I do think it's pretty smooth sailing for Penn State the rest of the way. Now, coming back at home against the Washington team could be a little tricky. Washington's got some good talent, but that team is nowhere near as talented as the team that made the national championship run last season. Penix is gone. The wide receiver trio is gone. Dylan Johnson, that running back, is gone. And Washington's going to have to replace a lot of pieces. Now, Jed Fish does come in to coach that team, and Will Rogers does come in to be the quarterback. He is a big play guy. I think Washington is going to have their moments in this game, and I think they keep it close, but Penn State will pull away late as the Nittany Lions get back in the win column. Ryan Walters' group at Purdue, I think, is going to be better this year. They were an abysmal team last season, and I think they will, at very least, be marginally better. Nowhere near the talent to compete with Penn State. I got the Nittany Lions winning that one on the road. I got the Nittany Lions going on the road and beating PJ Fleck's Minnesota Golden Gophers. That's another very interesting team out of the Big Ten Conference to watch. Very hard-nosed, tough, physical defensive team. Offense still might end up being a little bit of a question mark for Minnesota yet again in 2024. And then even though I still think Maryland going to have a pretty solid offensive unit, it's the defense that has questions here. And I think Penn State finishes the season strong and makes their case to get into the college football playoffs. So I have Penn State losing to Ohio State, and I have them splitting that 2-game road series, even though the bye week is right in between there. So I got Penn State sitting right now at 10-2. And with the expanded college football playoff field, that should surely be enough to get Penn State a spot in the expanded 12-team field. Penn State's still going to be a really elite defensive team this year, and the offense is still going to be really, really good. Again, kind of one of those things that I need to see Drew Allar develop that downfield ball. I do think it's going to get better this season. However, if that downfield ball doesn't develop, they definitely could end up dropping more games than what I'm predicting. But the defense is still going to be good. Give me 10-2 for the Penn State Nittany Lions. Going to be a really good team out of the Big Ten Conference this year. That's what I think about Penn State. What do you think about Penn State? Leave it in the comments section below. And hey, Utah, you're going to be on the board next. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder. See you guys in the next video. Goodbye.